It's us two. It's Martin Radenz from Leipzig and me,
Hello.
Andreas or Andi Preußer from the University of Trier, both in Germany. But yeah, we can for sure also say a few words to ourselves. So Martin, maybe you want to quickly say something, what you're doing, how you came to be on Mosaic and stuff like that.
So we were both in the atmosphere team, and I myself studied meteorology in Leipzig and joined Mosaic for the OceanNet project, where we have a small container in the bow of the ship where we try to understand vertical distribution of aerosols and clouds and how these interactions go in the atmosphere. And we have a berth on every leg, and my part was to take care of that container on leg 3 together with a few of the colleagues. And apart from that, I did a lot of work together with Andy and the other atmosphere guys.
Yeah, right. We did a lot of work together, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So just quickly to myself, I'm yeah, as I said, from the University of Trier in the Department of Environmental Meteorology, and I'm a trained environmental scientist, specialized in remote sensing and meteorology, and usually doing CS remote sensing. But on Mosaic, I was as Martin in the atmosphere team, and I took care of the wind and turbulence in the atmospheric boundary layer project, where I yeah, maintained and operated yeah, wind lidars, so measurement devices for detecting the wind. And also the big mast, the 23-meter mast, was part of my obligation, which is famously known as the noodle. So we will probably talk about that sometimes during that chat. Yeah, so this whole format will take about like 20-30 minutes. We got a lot of amazing questions from you, so thank you for that. But we are also happy to take some more from you. And yeah, so as the format is known as coffee break, so why don't we take the chance and start talking about that, because I know we both like drinking coffee a lot.
I even brought the Polarstern mug.
Wow, that's very good. And yeah, I think coffee is a very big part of an expedition, and also Mosaic. It was kind of interesting to see the development from the journey up to Polarstern on Radenz, and then to Polarstern, and later on the Marian on our way back. So don't you think that the coffee machines improved over time, or what was your impression?
First of all, I would regard the coffee machine the most vital equipment. Like, imagine Radenz without the coffee machine.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not the most decent one, but at least it worked.
It was okay. I think it was okay. It was a nice spot to gather around and get to know everyone on board. And yeah.
For the thousands cups of coffee that were brewed there, probably.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. We had a lot of time on the Radenz to drink coffee and chat about the projects we were going to do, and also other things we're yeah, wanted to do on Polarstern. But yeah, as you probably, or some of you might remember from the last coffee break of Steffi Arndt and Janine Schaffer, they already mentioned that our way up took quite some time more, so two weeks more than expected. And yeah, so there was a lot of time to chat with a cup of coffee. And then on Polarstern, we stepped up a little bit with the coffee machine business, and we got some new choices, and also some yeah, some other occasions to drink the coffee, right? So it was not the whole day gathering around the coffee machine. We had a lot of work to do. So yeah, taking a cup of coffee after the lunch break was kind of vital, I guess.
Yeah, especially after the cold in the beginning, a hot cup of coffee was pretty nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know. It was really nice to meet the colleagues after a busy day of work, or also just after lunch in the Red Saloon, which is just next to the mess room on Polarstern, and yeah, drink a cup of coffee, or maybe two, or a hot chocolate, or sometimes even a mix of both, which is kind of weirdly just a thing that I do on a Polarstern, so mixing up coffee and hot chocolate, but it works for me. So yeah, that was good. Yeah. And then on Merian, it got even better, right?
Yeah. The first coffee machine to include milk directly, fresh milk, not only milk powder.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I guess
that was really good.
They even had espresso cups, which was also like a recent addition.
Yeah, that was good. So as you notice, I think coffee-wise, we were in a pretty lucky situation. So on every part of the expedition, we were very well kept up with that. So yeah. And one funny thing about the coffee on Mosaic is also, especially within the Atmosphere team, you might remember that we opened even up a coffee shop on the ice, right?
Yeah, the recent.
So when was that?
Addition to Med City. I guess it was in the beginning of April after we reestablished the power. I think there was the idea that we have now the chance to operate a water kettle at Med City.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that fired up the thing. So
should have been around Easter also. Yeah, that was cool. So that was really nice. So it was I think it was this time when we actually make the coffee on the ice, and then later on we brought some coffee sometimes on the ice to the Med City hut. And as I think someone asked when we did take breaks, and so of course we also took some breaks on the ice when people changed work parts or something. We had time to grab a cup of hot drinks, and especially the coffee was very nice, right?
Yeah. And the interior of the Met Hut was pretty nice. So like a decent coffee shop with just wooden tables and
it was almost
no decent seating.
Yeah, it was almost like a very simplistic, fancy coffee shop in, I don't know, mid-Berlin or any other major city. So with plank wooden boards, it was really kind of a nice atmosphere.
Grumpy baristas.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, that was it could actually be a concept for some coffee shops in the future. Some nice wooden boards and fancy scientific equipment around. Was a nice atmosphere. Yeah. So far to the coffee, I think, right? So you notice it's an important topic. So besides the meals every day, it's really a good chance to exchange about work, and not only work, because your whole day is occupied with work related topics, and you start early in the morning, you work until 5:30 in the evening. There's only some breaks during daytime, and many times also gatherings or other events in the evening. So taking a moment, chatting with a colleague is always a good thing and an important thing to do.
Speaking of full days of work, do you want to talk a little bit about actual work on the ice?
Yeah. So let's see. So we have to recapitulate. We spent a lot of time on the ice. So you might also remember from the last coffee break that we had a very cold period and also very intense period in March. So temperatures were as low as, I don't know, minus 42.
Yeah, something like that.
At some points, and regularly between minus 30 and minus 35. So it was really challenging from the temperatures, and then also in early March, in the first few days, the ice started to move and put a lot of challenges on us. So we had not only to maintain and operate our instruments, but we also had the struggle to keep the power running. We had to rescue some instruments to another location. We had really a lot of work to do. So especially the March was kind of intense, and then after that things started to relax a bit, right?
I mean, a little bit. From my memory, we spent most of the March just trying to struggle to get our instruments running again. Like this large lead opening up in, I guess, 11th of March.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
That kept us busy for most of the rest of the month. And then I think we reestablished the power line to Med City on the first weekend of April or something like that. So
yeah,
quite a thing.
took some time. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the concept of the flow, how it used to be during wintertime especially. So if you're following Mosaic in the last few weeks or last few months, the Leg 4 team, as you might know, they only got back to the flow where the first 3 legs were operating previously, but they used a different part of the flow because our main central observatory was not in the best shape after we left the flow. So, but initially the whole camp was a very diverse, had a very diverse layout of different cities, of different roads, and also power lines that were put all over the ice to connect the different cities to power hubs and back to the ship. Data cables and all kinds of different materials were scattered around the flow. And this worked well for a large period during wintertime, but once the ice started to move, of course, this got a lot more complicated. So when the ice starts to move, and the Mosaic flow was unfortunately in a shear zone during that time, you always had to run behind your installations and take care that nothing falls into the water or gets lost, or so that was the tricky part in that period. So
yeah. I mean, if you go on the flow and your vital instrumentation is 500 meters away and open water in between, that's quite shocking.
Yeah.
And
you remember that time when we had this kayak trip? I think it was in April.
It must have been the 20th of April around that day. So
everyone was hoping to do a kayak trip at some point in calm conditions in a very nice spot. And just as it happened, we encountered that moment where the cables between Med City were again dropped into a big lead, so a big opening in the ice, and there was no other option than to use a double kayak, so to say, to get over to the other side and remove the cables and also the tripods that were sitting on in a safe manner. So we both and the electrician on the board of Polarstern and one of the logistic guys, Delphin, who's still on board. We went over, and that was fun, actually. So it was kind of freaking also when you sit in a kayak and you look to the water and you notice that it's going 4,000 meters down. But on the other hand, it was also, I mean, you had to do it. So it was was kind of an urgent task because you also don't want to lose the cables. And it was at the same time, of course, also some fun to paddle around there.
I guess it was always also a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening even. So that was also weekend work.
Weekend work, yeah. Right. But we talk a little bit more about also the actual scientific work that we did on board and also on the ice. So I don't know, you were kind of in between, right? You were always there for a helping hand on the ice, and you were doing a lot of bear guarding also and helping out in the atmosphere team and other teams. But you also had a lot of work on a ship. So that was the container part on the bow. So what were you doing there? Maybe.
So the container consists of a couple of instruments, and the most important one is a LiDAR, where we just fire pulses of laser light into the sky and look back what's coming back to try to understand clouds and aerosols, which are tiny particles floating in the atmosphere. And in theory, these measurements run continuously, so you don't have to stand next to the instrument and watch it while it does the measurements, but you can just do other tasks, but you have to make sure that the instrument is running and the data quality is high and that the data is saved and processed correctly. So once that is done, which took me about an hour or two a day under normal conditions, I could help others. For example, where we did a lot of work on the other LiDARs on the ice or the different remote sensing stuff, or we could just do bear guarding for other people. Where,
don't forget the noodle.
The noodle, yeah. The infamous 23 meters mast or 30 meters mast.
Used to be 30, now it's was then 23. Yeah. So it actually collapsed on leg 1. That might not be aware for everyone. So yeah.
Was it one of the statistics, like the most controlled takedowns of the mast and the most controlled rebuild-ups?
Yeah, I think so. So I think on leg 1, it's collapsed 1 due to an unfortunate opening next to it. So they took it away, repaired it, and set it up again next to Med City. But yeah, we had the same happening also at the beginning of our leg. Then we took it down in also quite harsh conditions. So it was also one of the cold days of minus 35 or so, and a lot of wind actually also. So that was kind of actually a little bit frightening, because it was the first time for me to actually operate it in that way. It was, as I said, really cold. It was my feeling was it was really close to frostbites on the fingers, so you had to really take care when touching the metal parts of the tower.
Wasn't it your job to just hold on that button for all the time?
Kind of, yeah. Hold the button, like orientate the mast that it goes down smoothly. Yeah. So it was, as I said, it was all the time pushing a metal button to release the hoist wheel, and So that was not really the nicest takedown, but it worked well. So we did, I think, a good job on that day. And then later on, we set it up again in mid-April, so around Easter also. And it was nicely situated in a new atmospheric measurement site there. And then just 3 or 4 weeks later, we had to take it down again, because we had to remove all instruments from the ice. So that was 3 times, kind of work-intensive operations with a big shaky mast. So I think that was kind of one of the kind of challenging and at the same time also rewarding things that we did on the ice. So
do you actually
the data was really good then.
Do you actually know if they set it up on leg 4, or did they skip that and just set up the smaller mast?
The 11-meter mast that was set up in leg 4. I think the big newel, that was just not feasible now at the moment because of the heavy melt on the surface and the movements. So, but probably some of the colleagues from leg 4, maybe even in the next coffee break, can explain a little bit more how that worked out in the melt phase of the flow. I mean, we also experienced some melt at the end of our expedition, but that was not so intensive that we had problems with any kind of stability of the installation. So that was something different. Yeah, but overall it was a very nice experience. So maybe we check, because we got a lot of questions before, and what other questions were proposed. Because we already talked a lot about our impressions during the campaign, of the temperatures and so on. But there was one question. How is an Arctic expedition in general? And is there any pro tip of keeping the motivation high? It's probably also quite interesting, because not everything is going smoothly every day. So, Martin, what would you say to that?
I mean, at the best, half of the things are going smoothly, I would judge by rule of thumb. But yeah, you see the work, and it's a lot of work, and you see that it has to be done. And so you just do it. But there's not a lot of choices. But after a couple of months.
In one way, that's true. But I mean, when I thought about it, and I actually just thought about it again before this coffee break here, I think one of the good things is that you are in an amazing environment. So if you're just frustrated and you notice that something isn't working, of course you're for the one moment you're like, oh damn, that's not good, and I don't know, what should we do? But when you step back a little bit from it, and you just scan around the flow, or maybe you even do some bear guarding shifts and take some of the impressions how everything is looking and what amazing environment you're in. I think that calmed me down in a lot of ways, and also being at the same time, of course, often able to help out other teams by doing that, or that was that gives you some further insights into other things, and maybe you take some positive spirit from that and can get back to the other things that doesn't work, right? I
guess we had a very nice team as well. So both in the atmosphere team and overall, like a lot of nice people to work with, and nobody being destructive. So that helped a lot.
Helps also a lot. So not only the scientific teams, also the crew. There were a lot of nice people that were always there for a chat, also during a coffee, or also in the evenings, maybe a beer. The logistic team was awesome. The kitchen staff, everything was worked quite well, and cared for us. So it was a good atmosphere. Yeah, speaking of drinking beer, things like that. So there was also questions about the free time, and I know that the previous coffee breaks also talked about that. So maybe people have some idea of what we did in the evenings when things worked out normal. We had a long working day and back on the ship. But I don't know, Martin, what did you do mostly in the evening? That probably explains a lot what I was doing in the evening. But
yeah, I mean, having a chat, calming down with a beer or two, but not too much because you have to stay in workable conditions anyways. But chatting with colleagues or doing some sports like water ball. There was this app post featuring both of us, I guess.
That was cool.
Going to sauna, which is one of the very nice installations in Polarstern.
Right, you can it's a nice combination of first doing some water basketball and afterwards going to sauna, and also then outside in the cold to cool down. It was a nice thing to do. Yeah, it's interesting seeing everyone's hair or beards getting instantly frozen after you go down on the deck and get cooled down. Frozen instantly. Yeah. So I think we weren't bored. So
nope.
Never at all. Except maybe as I mentioned at the beginning, maybe there were the one or the other moment on the Tranitsin and also later on the Merian, so on the transfer to and from Polarstern, where we had some I think more calm moments where like you were just
Don't forget the movie nights.
Right, they were also
nights, organized by you in parts.
In parts, May the 4th. Right. I don't know. Did you see some more questions in the chat box here? I don't know how that works.
There was a live question where the ship is right now, so I think it was already answered. Polarstern is still at the marginal ice zone close to Svalbard, awaiting the resupply vessel Academic Tereshnikov, which is underway at the moment. And there they will do the exchange from leg 4 to leg 5, and then they will continue measurements in that area, as far as I understood.
Yeah, that's also what I heard, that they will travel further north again. Yeah.
And I think the second question was how long this will take. So the mosaic is still planned until mid of October, when Polarstern will be back at Bremerhaven.
Yeah. So there was another question. So there's a question, is it a really new Arctic? What can you say about climate changes? I think that's kind of an extensive answer. So I'm not sure if we can fit that here in this format. But what we can say, at least from the observations at the beginning, so I didn't mention that I was also part of the initial build-up in October last year on the flow for at least the first half of leg 1. And what we found at the beginning was that all the flows, all the area that were scouted for a mosaic flow were, especially in that year, really thin, and kind of what a lot of people were saying, a picture of the new Arctic sea ice regime in that region. So a lot of new thin ice, just a few very old in quotation marks, so older sea ice flows here and there, but kind of an very low sea ice here where mosaic started off, and now again during summer we have record lows of sea ice extent and early melt in the Laptev Sea region where the mosaic expedition started last year. And so to make it short, doing an expedition like mosaic in 1 year is probably nothing where we can really say something about climatic changes, but we can pinpoint what we can observe during this year and see if we can relate that to the climatic processes that are happening there. So.
And don't forget that, like, us going with Stranitzin to Polarstern in the midwinter was also like a very first thing to do, like arriving 200 kilometers close to the North Pole in January was a very first for a non-nuclear icebreaker. And I think that also tells you something about the sea ice thickness and the sea ice extent. But as of course, this is only exemplary. And there's another question. If there are also remote sensing scientists on the expedition? Yes. So technically, we are both also remote sensing scientists. I'm from ground-based atmospheric remote sensing, but you are more of the sea ice remote sensing. And also your cabin partner was sea ice remote sensing, or?
Yeah. My cabin partner from Switzerland, Preußer, he was also in the remote sensing team. So within the ice team, there's always during each leg some people that care about the remote sensing instruments on mosaic. And of course, I was also, because I'm usually doing a lot of sea ice remote sensing, as I mentioned at the beginning. I was very much interested what they were doing, what they were up to. There are actually a lot of remote sensing scientists involved on site and also, of course, at home supporting the mission and looking also in the sea ice conditions. So I remember that both on the way up and also during the time when we tried to get out of the ice with Polarstern in May, we had a lot of support from the home institutions that send out recent satellite data, and so that's very helpful to have those colleagues on board. Yeah. So, and there's another question. What about hungry polar bears?
So we were a bit short on polar bears. So actually, we saw only one while we were on the floe, and that was in the early morning hours. So nobody was working on the ice, and we saw a second one while we were traveling back through the ice. But of course, we also always had to do the precautions, like having a bear guard in place, having a bridge watch in place, and just if suddenly a bear turns up, that you want to be prepared, because they are a real threat in the Arctic. And Lake 4 had a lot of polar bear encounters. Like, I think they even had a week where they saw one every day.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. But yeah, we were not so lucky in a way. Yeah, because it's always nice to see them. So yeah. So maybe I forgot one of the older questions, but we are also soon approaching half an hour. So maybe one last question that I forgot beforehand. How we were prepared for emergency situations on the ship in case something happens. So that was quite extensive, right?
Yeah, so we had to do a basic safety training, which is also mandatory for seafaring folks beforehand, even in Germany or our home countries, which took 2 weeks, I guess. And then we had a lot of safety precautions on board. Like, we had a safety drill on Radenz, we had another safety drill on Polarstern, just how to abandon ship in case of fire or something going on. And they also had a rescue exercise. I guess you were also part of that on the ice.
Yeah. A safety drill. Yeah. So there was a drill for the whole ship crew and also for the scientists involved, where we trained how everything works in case something happens on the ice. So how the people got evacuated. And just by coincidence, this trained exercise happened right next to me when I did bear guarding. So I was actually quite a bit involved in that. Yeah. So, yeah. So there are a lot of greetings I see. So greetings back to everyone. And I think I hope we didn't forget more of the questions that were asked, but I think we're quite good. And
we can announce the next coffee break, which will take place on the 3rd of September, first Thursday next month, and then I guess with persons from Lake Forest, so they can tell you a lot about polar bears and the melt season.
Yeah,
and it will be again at 4 p.m.
There were a lot of these rubber boots that are here in the background. I saw that already on the pictures. So we were kind of trendsetters when we put them out in, I don't know, when was it? Late April or early May?
No, that was the beginning of April, 4th of April.
Beginning of April, yeah. I don't know. At some point we took them out and walked there with the yellow rubber boots on the ice. And but yeah, I think it was now more appropriate to wear them during Act 4. So, yeah, I think the colleagues will be happy to see you again. And for the rest, you know, there's a website, follow.mosaic-expedition.org, where you can monitor the progress of the rest of the expedition. And yeah, for that now, thanks for your time. And thanks, Martin, for chatting. It was nice to see you again. And yeah, see you soon.
Maybe. See you, and have a nice afternoon, evening, rest
you
of
too.
the week. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.